Okay, I don't even know if I'm live. I'm probably live, and I'm not even. Yeah, I'm live, and I'm like, I'm not even talking to anybody or anything else. That's a great way to start the show. All right, I just had technical difficulties, and thank goodness my friend Purple came on and told me about it because I had no idea. I don't think I got a history here. Ah, yeah. Okay, they remembered it. Guglu Maladi. Okay, so they have a. Yeah, here it is. 6 videos.
When you see a company or organization name
Yeah,
in
it
the
was
title of
crazy.
one of
My
their videos, you can probably.
I
This is
did
the
not
quickest way to.
realize it, but I was totally um. My volume somehow got really screwed up midstream or something. I don't know what happened. Thank goodness my friend Purple caught it. Okay, so now here we go. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. Kind of curious now. Kind of curious. I don't know. Anyway, so moving right along. Okay, this person is
Clear out stuck poop.
Fiber helps you
called
poop,
like
right?
Illuminati or
Nope.
something like
What
that.
about drinking?
Um, and they do not strike me. I'm just going to say they're not autistic. What I love about this person is, opposed to Autism Speaks, they're speaking on behalf of autistic people rather than for autistic people. If you go to the Autism Speaks website, it becomes very obvious that Autism Speaks wants to speak in not for autistic people. They claim to speak for autistic people, but they instead want to speak instead. Autism Speaks claims to speak for autistic people. And Autism Speaks says that they speak for autistic people, not on behalf of autistic people. But what they really do is they speak instead of autistic people. Autism Speaks claims to. I was asked in an interview yesterday if it was okay for people who are not autistic to speak for autistic people. And I gave a fairly good answer, but I came up with a much better answer today after watching another autistic creator. And that is this: it is good for people to speak on behalf of autistic people, such as my wife. She often speaks on behalf of me, but she does not speak for me. Now, Autism Speaks, they say they speak for autistic people, but if you look at the tone and look what's actually happening, they want to speak instead of autism people. This is David Page. Screw them flapper. Oh my goodness, I even forgot to turn off the stream. Okay. I was making a quick little video here. This is our I hope my volume
conspiracy theory style misinformation spreaders, just kind of generally. We think of moms that see something at face value, don't look at sourcing even remotely. They are quick to spread this information to all their friends, thus allowing the vicious cycle of misinformation to continue. And that is how things like today.
What I had to do was like reset everything in my system. I had to reset my computer and then reset the sound. The microphone, there was a reset thing when you go in there. I have no idea why. I was so sad too, because this headset, when I had money, I bought it. It's a Seasonic, and it was about a $250 headset. It has the, like, what do you call it, a surround sound with the 7 speakers and so forth, so you actually get directional. It's really a gaming headset. And I don't have any of my Yetis. All 3 of my Yetis are broken because of the way they break at the very bottom.
Today's video topic even become an issue.
Now, this is one thing that I love about this lady here. She's not autistic. I can just pretty much tell from her voice and how she speaks. I know that's really presumptuous of me. But she doesn't claim to be autistic. But what I love is she's reporting on Autism Speaks here.
So today
and she's not trying to speak for autistic people. At the least, she's trying to speak on behalf of autistic people in this respect, but not really even there. Whereas Autism Speaks itself, they say they do speak for autistic people, but instead they want to speak instead of autistic people. So this is, I don't know anything about this. She's coming under, literally taking scripts, but I don't know about that here.
We're going to be talking.
Some of the things I've disagreed with, but in general, I think this has been pretty good reporting. I've actually learned a few things myself.
About MMS, otherwise known as...
So she's plagiarizing good material. For my purposes, it doesn't matter.
Thing that pops up in the news that reads something along the lines of like, these parents think feeding their children bleach will cure their autism. Oh yeah, we're going down that path today. So...
And I actually have seen that.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Blair, or the Illuminati, and today I'm going to be talking about MMS. This topic has been pretty highly requested, so I think
yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
Figured I'd take a shot at it, especially with the state of the world, what it is right
now. I need material. I think, well, I don't know how many hours I've been doing this. I've been doing this, let's see, I must be almost, yeah, I'm almost on 40 hours of my 100 hours now.
Now, MMS has actually begun making its way into the news again, and I want to preface this video by saying that there's a lot of weird claims in this video about what MMS does. Some really, really strange theories, so please don't form your opinions until the very end. So with all of that said, let's dive right in and talk about what MMS...
do you mean ableist or inableist? Did you get a typo there?
Is and why it's been so problematic. In case you are not aware, MMS stands for Miracle Mineral Supplement. And I know when a lot of people hear supplement, you might be thinking vitamins, but this is...
I appreciate that. I really do. I haven't seen... Some places I've seen that she's definitely wrong on some of the other videos, and I've called it out. But for the most part, it's
cut and dry. Just the process.
It's good to know if some of her work has been called into question. Absolutely.
Of drinking bleach. Yeah. Drinking bleach, literally. It's made from a mixture between sodium chloride solution and an acid that...
I've actually seen this on Facebook where people were talking about this. I am not kidding you. You know what? I have not seen her do that at all here on these videos themselves. which is great because of what I'm trying to do. So hopefully that doesn't pop up here because I will have to call that out. And I do appreciate you letting me know, Purple.
Thus creating chlorine dioxide, an industrial cleaner. This can be used to disinfect drinking water, especially in countries where clean drinking water isn't readily available. Even with the teeniest, tiniest little bit of a dose of 0.1 ppm or parts per million ratio, you can start to reach some dangerous thresholds. So, since the FDA has described this MMS concoction as the equivalent of bleach with a 28% chlorine dioxide ratio, I'm going to refer to it as bleach at times during this video.
You know, snake oil has always been a huge thing for autistic in the autistic community. Parents get so desperate that they literally will try anything. So your snake oil creeps into the community quite readily even today.
I don't believe in sugarcoating it or using MMS as the only terminology when, in reality, this isn't some miracle mineral supplement, it's bleach. So let's cut the bullshit and call it what it really is. If you've got even a shred of sense in your body, you would know not to drink this. You're not about to go under your kitchen sink or into your cabinets and start chugging Clorox because some dude on the internet says it's healing. But unfortunately, this is exactly what Jim Humble, the inventor of MMS, told people to do. And what's scariest about this is that people actually listen to him. Jim Humble is a self-published former Scientologist. I really don't want to call—
Look at this. The comments are turned off here. That's interesting. That's never a good sign. The weird thing. Okay, so this is bleach. Okay, going down this list here. Okay,
Folks.
This was on a playlist for Autism Speaks, yet it wasn't talking about that. So I want to go directly to where she is talking about Autism Speaks.
Just want to take a moment to ask for your support today. Not a single donation goes.
We've got some shit to talk about today. If you guys follow my Twitter, you probably saw that I just went on like this mad rampage against Sia.
Now, I will tell you one funny thing. I made a video about Sia not too long ago, welcoming her to the autistic community. Now, I think she's going to talk about all this ableism, blah, 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 blah. Sia made a movie, and she was quite hated for it because of how she depicted autistic people. The young girl was not autistic, and people were complaining about that. There were just lots and lots of problems that came up with it. The funny thing is that she herself found out that she was autistic after all this controversy. And so I am of the position that she has probably learned a lot. Unfortunately, I think the autistic community may be rather abusive towards her now, even if she has turned and learned a lot. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh heck yeah. And I don't know what our water is. But I have always hated if you get city water and you turn on the faucet and you can just smell it. Ugh. Oh, I hate it. Of course, I've grown up as a country boy on well water and stuff like that. So
because this bitch, the audacity of this bitch, I just like... I felt really bad to some degree because at first I was like, oh, she doesn't understand. But apparently she very much understands what's going on. Yeah, so Sia made this, I assume she's making a...
Now, this is 3 years ago. Sia did find out she came out as autistic, I think, in the last, 6 or 8 months or something?
Movie, because it hasn't come out yet. And the main character, I believe, is named Music. And Music here, let me pull up her Twitter page really quick so we can go through this together. So I'm not leaving you guys in the dark. Boom. So the main character is named Music, and Music is autistic. And she did not hire an autistic person to play Music. to be misunderstood because I think this movie does more good than harm. And so Sia is a suffering.
I'm moving forward here because
matter about good intentions.
I want to talk about
it's
Autism
to
Speaks
being
specifically today. In New York, we had problems with LG. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I used to throw a little bleach in my tank sometimes. Now, not when the animals were there, but to kind of shock them a little bit. And overnight, a lot of times it would help the water. Okay, we're getting into Autism Speaks now, hopefully.
And just kind of see that she's just like, this is bullshit and blah, 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 blah. And this movie is beautiful and can't wait for you to see the film. And this person says, you're ignorant, you're an ignorant twat and a disgrace to the disabled community. Get in the bin. She's just like, this is pretty cruel and judgmental. I'm like, really, sis? Like, it's not really judgmental. And this is because, look at this, November 13th, so about a week ago-ish, she retweets from Autism Speaks confirming the involvement that today is World Kindness Day.
Whoa.
Yeah. Right,
okay,
isn't it?
Maybe I would need to back up on this one.
Caregivers who cause harm to disabled people. Autistic people need to be allowed to tell their own stories, not this garbage.
Oh, wow.
So Sia goes, I think maybe you should just... She responds by saying...
I'm going to just have to backtrack on this because it kind of looks like this is kind of tied in.
She responds by saying, I actually tried working...
So this could
starring
be actually,
Kate Hudson.
This could be fairly interesting.
Leslie Odom Jr. and Maddie Ziegler will be arriving in early 2021. Maddie Ziegler plays music who is not autistic, and Sia made quite a few choice words, to be honest.
And this is from 3 years ago, and this is regarding more, I'm really talking about Autism Speaks, but this is regarding Sia and the movie Music, and this is right before it was actually released. And the funny thing here is just, I think 6 months ago, Sia was diagnosed as autistic, and so as you watch this unfold, it's going to be interesting.
So this person is responding to the trailer, right? So this person responds and says, this is totally unacceptable and there are no excuses. You should know better than to allow able-bodied and neurotypical to represent the disabled community. It's incredibly offensive, as is the infantilization of the character. Sickened and not even captioned. Don't release this. She responds by saying, I actually tried working with a beautiful young girl, nonverbal, on the spectrum, and she found it unpleasant and stressful, so that's why I cast Maddie. Don't deal with...
I called it out. She's not autistic. I could just tell from her voice, speech patterns.
With any of that, like on a personal, like in my family level. And so for me, it was really hard for me to understand. So I had to learn through my friends, about what it means to be autistic and like how things are the same and how things are different and how stigmas are wrong and all this kind of stuff. And it takes time and I'm still obviously learning. And I think that it's something I'm only going to get better at with time, which is exciting. So seeing something like this that now I can recognize is so blatantly like inappropriate is really, really cool. And I like that, although this shit is not good. So this is where the rabbit hole's beginning. So this here is, again, another response to this, and this person says, this is cripping up and it's really gross. If you want to tell stories about disabled people, pay disabled people to tell the story. And she goes, I hired plenty of special abilities kids. I'm willing to be misunderstood because I think this movie does more good than harm. And so Sia is essentially just being like, no, that doesn't matter, which it should not be the case if you're trying to make some kind of like woke movie, which is what she was trying to do. Yes, I'm seeing that hashtag, nothing about us without us. It's a very important thing. And she unfortunately was just kind of like, fuck that, and I'll be fine. But this lovely person here says, hi Sia, can I ask why you didn't cast a disabled actor for this part? It's pretty offensive the way you tried to portray this character. And she just goes, I agree. I've never referred to music as disabled. Special abilities is what I've always said, and casting someone at her level of functioning... Oh, there's what I was looking for. Casting someone at her level of functioning was cruel, not kind. So I made the executive decision that we would do our best to lovingly represent the community. There's the tweet I was looking for. There we go. That's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Sia was trying to do a good thing, and it turned out to be rather a disaster. And the problem here is, like I said, she's autistic. But I'm afraid the autistic community will never ever take her in. She made a big mistake, and the thing is now that she knows she's autistic, and she's certainly learned more about autism, she may have entirely different perspectives and so forth. So I did actually formally, personally welcome her to the autistic community. Um, I think we need to give her a chance. I haven't heard anything negative since she discovered she was autistic, and I would hate to see us ostracize someone just because they made a terrible mistake. Now, if she continues ableist behavior, then hold her accountable. But I think we need to step back on this one just a little bit.
That's right, guys. So according to this, casting someone who is autistic to play an autistic person with that level of functioning is cruel, not kind. So I wanted to show you guys that. I'm happy we found that so quickly. But it literally is going to get worse from here. But I feel like this is something that is important to speak on because it's weird how she's doubling down versus I just saying I'm sorry and be like it's not ready yet. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's plenty of time to change that. You know, to be like, hey, I fucked.
So this is with the trailer, and I think she had already made the movie. So there way she couldn't go back and change it.
You know, like I didn't know. Thank you. It's really not that hard to find an autistic actor if you fucking try. Good call. They also assumed an autistic would be incapable of doing the job because of pressures, which, as you guys saw, was what she said earlier.
And that's complete bullshit. Sia is a rock star, so to speak. And there's extreme pressures with that. Now, we are all different. I definitely couldn't do what Sia could do. She in that respect. But there's things that Sia can't do that I can probably do. So. Yeah. On one hand is, hey, Mark, now I got purple. Hey, Mark here. Oh, this is so cool. I got my people here. On one hand, it is extremely hard to address or represent it, the autistic community from the outside of it. No matter how you represent it, you will be viewed as condescending. Absolutely. And this is one thing that I just kind of came up with this today, dude. But I think it's fine for people to speak on behalf of autistic people, not for autistic people, and definitely not taking the position of Autism Speaks, who want to speak instead of autistic people, who don't even care about our voice.
In that other tweet that we just looked at. And then she goes, not an assumption, an experience. But yeah, so she doubles down on this again. It's not an assumption, it's an experience that whoever she theoretically hired to play this role was incapable. It's just, like, it makes me uncomfy a little bit, no? Perhaps just me.
Maybe they were having meltdowns and so forth, and maybe it was traumatic. I don't know. But
oh yeah, here we go. Here's this too. So Helen here goes, hi, I'm an actually autistic professional actress that could have been cast and hired on short notice.
And there are lots of actors and actresses that are autistic, and they really truly do feel that they should be hired instead of neurotypical people. I'm kind of mixed on that. I know that autistic people certainly do not have the opportunities in the acting world that neurotypical people have. And in an ideal world, I would prefer autistic people to portray autistic people, obviously. The thing is if they're all actors, who was it that played Hannibal Lecter? I can't remember his name. He played a neurotypical person, and he's autistic. So does that mean he can't play a neurotypical person? Just saying. I would love to see autistic people get much more jobs in Hollywood or what have you. But I don't know. I
acted in a film the same day I was contacted. So this reasoning is 100% false. The fact that they did not want to hire an actor with autism, hashtag nothing about us without us. And she responds, I'm sorry we were never introduced. My character was pretty low functioning, and after attempting a few actors... Wait, what? After attempting a few actors on the spectrum, they suggested I use Maddie. Now, as we know already from the other tweet, she said she made the executive decision to make a loving representation. We're not even at the tweets that totally pissed people off yet, because there's like 2 screenshots floating around.
You know, you're absolutely right, Mark. So Mark's saying here that even being in the autistic community, I don't feel qualified to represent. I sure don't. I'm just a dumbass. The thing is, this is someone else was another creator on TikTok was talking about the same thing, and I said, look, frankly, if you put yourself out there, you are representing the autistic community, whether you like it or not. I don't like the idea of it, but when people see you making material and so forth and talking about and advocating and so forth, then you start being seen as that person, and I don't want that. That's why I always try to say that, hey, this is, my BS or whatever. But it is something that we want to that we have to keep in mind, and sucks.
Of her just being absolutely
Anthony
fucking
Hopkins, thank you. Yeah, Anthony Hopkins, he played a neurotypical, so does that mean that he shouldn't have played it? I don't know. I think he did a great job. A lot of people do. But yes, absolutely. I do think, for sure, that autistic people are definitely underrepresented in Hollywood, in acting, and particularly for roles of autistic people, like The Good Doctor or whatever. I don't really know much about that fellow's acting or what have you, but he's not autistic, and maybe he did a great job. I don't know.
File in a little bit. We're not even there yet, guys. Like, I just, what the fuck? So, yeah, she can't stop getting worse and worse. Honestly,
Oh yeah,
she can't. And we're going to keep going where it gets worse.
So we're going to keep on going down this little rabbit hole because she's about to get where it ties into Autism Speaks.
All right. So now it's, perhaps you might consider your own prejudices leading you to describe autistic people as suffering. Inspiration porn is harmful and marginalized population. So that's referring to like the whole glorification of,
I hate inspiration porn. Ugh.
like, if you wake up in the morning thing, it's like, oh my God, congratulations, you woke up this morning. Like, you wouldn't say that to someone who is able-bodied or whatever. So why would you say that to someone who is autistic? And this idea that this video is essentially glorifying that this autistic character is going to do something great and overcome their autism. That's kind of like what it is. It's just not like
That is kind of ableist and it is kind of cringy.
it leaves a gross feeling in your mouth. I think that's the right wording. So this person goes, your tweets have really encapsulated the whole problem. Autistic people do not bring their families or carers to suffering. In fact, it's often caregivers who cause harm to disabled people. Autistic people need to be allowed to tell their own stories, not this garbage. So Sia goes, I think maybe you should just see the film. I think you may think it's something it isn't. Respectfully yours, Sia. This is going to be like the last time this bitch was respectful before she gets like angry, okay? And this person goes, yet another one without autistic input. Disappointed in Sia. I thought you'd be more progressive and edgy than this. I'm autistic, but an artist too. Creating work on disability without...
And of course we get a commercial. Yeah, and I think this is I think this kind of hate is still being perpetuated towards Sia, and that's...
input is ableist and dismissive, no matter about good intentions. So she responds and goes, I'm sad and confused that you think I didn't research and utilize my friends on the spectrum. So many assumptions. I hope you love the film. It's beautiful. Hey Blair, I'm trying to understand the issue here. Is the issue situations like the movie Radio starring Cuba Gooding Jr., where an, apologies if I butchered terms here, able-bodied person play a special needs person? Yeah, so the thing is that there are a lot of actors and actresses that are on the spectrum, that have a wide variety of whatever, and that Hollywood instead will cast someone who is perfectly able-bodied, and whatever, instead of like consulting someone who's actually part of that community, and actually just living their lives being that type of person. And the problem is when you have someone who's totally just able-bodied, neurotypical, whatever, you can't, like, it's very difficult to understand like the small nuances that bring the character from being something flat and like 2D to being someone that is an actual relatable character to people in that community. So it's basically like a white person trying to play a black.
And the other, yeah, I see what she's saying, but
understand like the small nuances that bring the character from being something flat and like 2D to being someone that is an actual relatable character to people in that community. So it's basically like a white person trying to play a black character. Now she's still trying to like fight people on it, and then you can just kind of see that she's just like, this is bullshit and blah 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 blah, and this movie is beautiful and can't wait for you to see the film. And this person says you're ignorant or an ignorant twat and a disgrace to the disabled community, get in the bin. She's just like, this is pretty cruel and judgmental. I'm like,
that's kind of weird that they put a disgrace to the disabled community, because she had no idea. Oh, she didn't know that she was autistic at the time.
Really says, like, it's not really judgmental. And this is because, look at this, November 13th, so about a week ago-ish, she retweets from Autism Speaks, confirming the involvement, that today is World Kindness Day. Yeah, right, isn't it? You just face in palm. Just face in the mother.
I don't know what she means here. This is really kind of confusing me a bit. Because it's like she's jumping off subject here or something.
Look at this, November 13th, so about a week ago-ish, she retweets from Autism.
Like, how does she tweet from Autism Speaks? Maybe she was retweeting Autism Speaks thing. That's what she said.
Speaks, confirming the involvement, that today is World Kindness Day.
And what she mean by the involvement?
Yeah, right, isn't it? You just face in palm. Just face in the motherfucking palm, just boom. You can just see this. If you really want to promote kindness, I'd encourage you to look into autistic-led autism organization to support. Asan is who I've donated to, and I'm probably going to keep donating to them so long.
Okay, so that's what she did. She took a Autism Speaks thing and she basically retweeted it or something.
Because they remain unproblematic. They're a good charity if you guys want to actually donate to a good autistic charity. Do I really want to go there? Let's see, what trash is Autism Speaks up to? Just for the heck of it. Autism Speaks was not... Oh my god, look, they answered! Autism Speaks was not involved in the casting or production of the film Music. Representation matters. We believe autistic actors should always be given opportunities to play autistic characters.
That's interesting.
Interesting. And yet you actively contributed to and continue to perpetuate the narrative that non-speaking autistics are broken, helpless, and incompetent burdens. A myth which she also is perpetuating by claiming they can't act and it would be cruel to have them as actors. Oh.
Well, I don't know that she generalized like that. She said that she tried some autistic people and they didn't work out.
Motherfucker. What? Let me like that. Love that. Okay, so then she says the character Music is based on a close friend of mine. That's the first and only time she mentions that, just for the record.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it was a kid, and I understand that they were crying on the set every once in a while, at least, or whatever, and so that's where she for whatever reason, decided to go with a neurotypical kid.
None of you have seen it. It's such a bummer.
And it's so sad because that neurotypical kid actually experienced a certain amount of backlash, and not cool at all.
I love Maddie Ziegler, don't get me wrong, but you need to consult actual autistic people and have autistic people play autistic people. And she goes, I did try. It felt more compassionate to use Maddie. That was my call. So again, flip.
So she didn't want to overstress this autistic girl that she had cast. I don't see that as wrong.
Flopping on before when she blamed somebody else. Now the blame is back on her again. So this is one of the screenshots that is getting passed around. So this person is, it's a mighty shame that someone with such a colossal platform is using it to exclude disabled and neurodiverse.
Mark, right now, I don't know. I really don't know. I really wish I did know the best place to donate right now. ASAN, which is tends to have a pretty good reputation. Here it is right here. It's the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I don't know about it, to tell you the truth. But I have heard a lot of positive things, and I've heard some negative things about it. But I mean, or at least one negative comment or whatever about it. But for the most part, it seems to be fairly legit and so forth, and it is run by autistic people. And when you look at their mission statement here, I just want to take I'm gonna diverge here real quick. We're gonna go to Autism Speaks because I want to show you something which is very interesting to me. We're gonna go. So this is our mission. So we're gonna go to the mission statement here. Our mission. Now, I think due to me, they have changed some of their language, like they have with autism here, because they like characterizing it as a disease. But they have changed some of their wording in the last couple of days. Like, see, in care for autistic individuals, they're using identity first language here, which 3 days ago they weren't. I've been really on their butt. Actually, that would be donating to Purple would actually probably be a I'm for that one. Okay, so Autism Speaks is dedicated to creation of an inclusive world for all individuals with autism, with that disease, autism, throughout their lifespan. We do this through advocacies, services, support, research, and innovation and advances in care for autistic people, because see how there's that distance there for autistic individuals. At least they changed, instead of saying for people with autism, which is what they had before, and I think it's because I called them out. And it's not like I'm getting a big head or anything here. They have directly emailed me. Eileen Lamb has actually complained about me. She didn't say me specifically or whatever, but I know they're watching my website. Like right now I have 4 people on here, and when I get people on here, like I'll have somebody on here watching a lot. And I keep on asking them, like, hey, say hello so, I can know who you are, and they won't do it. So I'm pretty sure that Autism Speaks is watching me, watching this stuff. I know they watch my TikToks, and so that, but I think they're here too now. So this is really horrible. This really isn't. The Autistic Self-Advocacy Network seeks to advance the principles of the disability rights movement with regard to autism. ASAN believes that the goal of the autism advocacy should be a world in which autistic people enjoy equal access, rights, and opportunity. See how that's focused towards the autistic people? See how the tone is so different? We work to empower autistic people across the world to take control of our own lives. Now, this is we, us, and the future of our common community. Seek to organize the autistic community to ensure our voices are heard in the national conversation about us. Nothing about us without us. I'm going to go into, because this is, well, let's see if they change this. Okay, so this is once again, okay. Autism is a lifelong condition, and an autistic person, now it used to say person with autism. I know this. They just changed this language. I know that, because I went back to this same statement over and over. Strengths and challenge, and I do have that on record. As they transition through life stages, they may need different types of supports and accommodations. Early interventions and therapies can make a big person in a person's skills and outcomes later in life. See that weird distance there? Oh, wow, that's really cool. That is so cool. I would absolutely love to join in. I think right now, to tell you the truth, I am probably the person who is most on Autism Speaks butt in the autistic community, and I'm starting to get to be known for that, unfortunately.
Actors
I don't want to be known as the guy the hater of Autism Speaks. I just want to be known as me and a person who's concerned about autistic people.
Their own narratives. I've been a longtime fan of your work, so this is really disappointing. So she goes, I cast 13 neurotypical people, 3 trans folk, and not as fucking prostitutes or drug addicts, but as doctors, nurses, and singers. Fucking sad nobody's even seen the dang movie. My heart has always been in the right place. Now, here's another level of bullshit. I believe it's in response to this, but calling someone fucking prostitutes or drug addicts also sucks for anyone who is in recovery.
That, yeah, that was kind of that was very harsh and very not cool towards sex workers. A lot of people do that to raise their children. Sometimes I've known people that did it to get through college and so forth. But at least she did cast neurotypical people, trans folk, or whatever. 13 neurotypical, 3 trans folk. Okay, as doctors, nurses, singers, whatever. Okay, whatever.
And I believe someone called it out. I think it's this person. Am I wrong? Okay, it looks like everyone's calling them out, so I can't even remember which one it is. But just wanted to say, doctors, nurses, and singers can be sex workers and drug addicts as well. Sex work isn't and shouldn't be shameful, and drug addictions is a disorder. Again, nothing to be ashamed of. Please do seek help if you're in this situation. Someone else saying, so you decided to double down and be anti-sex worker and judge addicts. This is a...
You're right. People do it to survive. You're darn right. I knew a gal that... I worked with her at a factory, and she worked at the Mustang Ranch in Carson City, which is probably one of the most famous prostitution houses in the world. And she would go there for like a month at a time, and her husband would take care of her kids, and she lived there, and she made really good money. But it was to take care of her kid. Literally to take care of her kid. And the funny thing was is she worked at this factory, and I heard these guys talking crap about her, and it really pissed me off. But the one thing is how did they know? Probably because they couldn't get none on their own. Just saying.
Embarrassing for you at this point.
They kind of had to pay for it.
You should have apologized for doing things the way you did, but instead you're defending it with, but it's my art. Do not attack Maddie Ziegler don't even attack Sia. She's getting enough. Like, she's like, they're either going to learn from this or they won't. It's not Maddie's fault that she got cast. Like, yes, she did take it, and maybe she did or did not understand the situation. I don't know, but attacking someone is not the right answer, because when you attack somebody, they will just shut down and dismiss you for being combative.
I don't know what this says, but you also worked with Autism Speaks, and for some mysterious reason couldn't find I don't know what this with Autism Speaks thing is about.
Right? So if you actually want someone to like understand where you're coming from, you have to be firm but kind, right? If you're going after someone aggressively, they're just gonna block you and stuff, you know, like, you're a piece of shit, you know, all this, like, it's not gonna work. Like, who's gonna listen to that? You just called me a piece of shit, why should I listen to anything you have to say? So just don't attack people. But it is important that if you're
okay, you know what, I gotta write this down so I don't forget. So it's 3:30 p.m. 3:30 p.m. That's Mountain Standard. And that's Saturday, so I imagine that's this Saturday, whenever that is. Cool. Yeah. My Twitter's working now, so you can send me a link or whatever. I mean, I'm starting to keep in touch a little bit better now. And by the way, this has nothing to do with anything, but I have finally gotten some people to help me with the SSDI. And they specialize in people with developmentally disorders and disabilities and so forth. Because my problem, the reason I couldn't get SSDI for the last year, I was fighting them because I literally cannot fill out the paperwork. My mind, I get so stressed. My mind's gone to crap in the last couple of years, but I get so stressed out that I literally cannot fill out the paperwork. I think a lot of it's PDA and so forth. And I told Social Security, I cannot fill out the paperwork. And they said, well, if you can't fill out that paperwork, then we just can't help you. And I've been fighting and fighting and fighting. But I found a group. I was trying to get a hold of attorneys and so forth, and they all said, once you've been rejected or denied, then let us know. I talked to this group, explained my situation, and explained how the doctors are not helping me. Even my developmentally impaired clinic people, the psychiatrists and doctors, their policy is they cannot write a letter or fill out the paperwork for disabilities, which I think is very strange. But I explained this, and they said, no, this is what we do. So it wasn't any stuttering, and it wasn't any vague statements or whatever. It was like, no, this is what we do. And in the morning at 9 o'clock, I had my first meeting for that. And I also found another contact. So I'm extremely excited about that. And that is the first time. I mean, I feel better than I have felt in over a year or so, too. Even with my son committing suicide last October, is the first time that I've had any hope. I've been so depressed and hopeless. And when you're completely hopeless and you see no light at the end of the tunnel, that's when it gets dangerous. And it has been very dangerous for me. So I'm very happy. And Purple, I cannot say how much I love you. I'm just going to say I love you. I truly love you, Purple. Hopefully someday we can get together and I can give you a true autistic hug. Hopefully that won't bother you too much, but I love a good tight hug, and you're just such people. And Mark, you have been there this entire time, watched this happen and watched me grow and Purple grow and everything. And I love you folks so much, and you guys have been around for forever, and I got to get back to what I'm doing here.
You're going to state your point of view, things like this, like how they're saying, like, you know, you decided to double down, like, this is not okay, like, that kind of stuff is...
And you're right. And that first time thing, I think because these are attorneys and so forth, and they know what they, and this is what they do for a living, and I probably will be able to get through there the first time or whatever. Well, you know, the thing is, I know that you have certain issues I love. I'm not real touchy feely, but I love a good autistic hug, and I'm talking a booby masher. um, I really do from people that I care about, and you are definitely you and Mark, definitely.
Is making the point clear, but not overstepping into attacking people territory. And I understand it's very easy to get emotionally charged and just want to just go after these people at the throat, but that solves nothing. Okay, so now
You know what? The reason I disappeared, Mark, and Purple knows this too. I disappeared almost for a year or two, and it was because I was so emotionally distraught I couldn't even talk anymore. I remember I popped on a live on Purple's about 8 months ago, and I was on there for about 10-15 minutes. I couldn't even talk. I couldn't do anything. It was horrible. So I'm doing much better now, and I knew you guys were always there. So
she makes
I
this
appreciate
tweet.
that.
Grr, fuckity fuck. Why don't you watch my film before you judge it? Fury. It's just so uncomfy. So yeah, so then she makes this tweet, unprompted. It's still on her page, obviously, as you guys can tell. And it's just... And it's just, girl, this isn't the fucking look you want. As someone who was a huge fan of you, unless you take actual steps to fix this and not just make a basic apology, I can't morally support you anymore. And
You know what? This is just... She's really not talking about Autism Speaks anymore, so I'm gonna bail. I am definitely gonna bail on this. You try Autism Speaks. I tried history before, and okay, this is. I'm gonna see what this. I may have looked at this one before. I don't know, but I've got plenty of time to go over
I
things
am
once if I
autism.
need to.
I will ruin your life and destroy your family. I will steal your money and burn down your house.
That was weird. Anyway, I am Foster, I'm an autistic adult, and today I'm going to speak about Autism Speaks. I do speak for the entire neurodivergent community, except for the fact that I completely don't, and I only speak for myself. So Autism Speaks is the largest autism research organization in the United States as a whole. It's a very big and popular nonprofit that has been criticized a lot by autistic adults for a lot.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Mark. I can't say how much I really have appreciated you guys. You know, when I found out I was autistic, I immediately was like, okay, I'm autistic. Why? Purple. When I discovered that I was queer, okay, I'm queer. Why? Purple. Diana. When you have trans people, it's obvious. And you have to live it. There's just no damn choice. And what I mean is with autism itself, you know, it's kind of invisible and so forth. But when people are trying to transition, particularly when they're having to do it in their hometown or whatever else, it's huge. And so when I discovered I was autistic, there was zero hesitation in saying I'm autistic because exactly, and Jen too, well, all, the Jens, and the thing is I never even thought about not coming out because I was like, you know what, my friends, they go through a lot of shit being who they are. And I sure as shit, because I love them and I know them, I'm not ashamed of who I am. And it's because of you people that I'm not. And that I was able to accept who I was as an autistic person. Because you folks taught me that. I lived that with you people. And that made me such a better person and prepared for the completely unexpected, like the queer thing and autism and all that. And in that respect, it wasn't hard to be myself at all because I had my friends that were themselves. and they didn't care about any other fronts or anything else. So it just made it so easy for me. So I really appreciate that.
A lot of reasons, and it's a very dividing topic. There are a lot of non-autistic parents of autistic children who really love Autism Speaks, as well as a lot of people who work with autistic children who are also not autistic. However, a lot of actually autistic people absolutely despise it.
It's funny. I don't know if this person's gender, but they remind me of my son because if you look, the face is not really close to being what do you call mirror or whatever. And my son's face was very much like that. It was kind of noticeably different on each side. If you looked, I mean, if you were walking down. Well, I was queer from the beginning. I just didn't know it. And what it was is I was a fundamentalist and so forth. And when I met my wife, she told me she was bi, and I just was like, I got to thinking about it. I was like, okay, why am I heterosexual? Why am I not queer? Or why am I not gay? And what it boiled down to is I was like, because religion told me that that's how I was supposed to be. I was a guy, and that's how I was supposed to be. And so I experimented and found out that I enjoy human beings, and I don't care what parts or pieces. I am actually technically, symmetrical. And I found out actually technically I'm pan because, and I literally know I'm pan, because I just don't care about parts and pieces. I care about people. And once again, that's being involved in the trans community. Actually, when I was young, I have not thought about this in a long time. But I remember dressing in women's clothes and so forth. Like I'd sneak my mom's clothes or whatever. And it was very interesting. I loved the feel of pantyhose or whatever. That was really, it was very stimmy for me. After a while, I didn't do that. I mean, I experimented with that for a little bit. But I never really felt that I was a female. I've always felt like I was a male. I just never have. Now, when it came down to brass tacks, I realized that religion screwed me up even more than what I had thought. Yeah. So, purple. Okay, I'm pan because I believe that there are more than two genders, and will consider dating someone regardless of what gender they are. I don't give a crap about gender or sex. I found now I like to have my partner that I love, but as far as playing or whatever else, okay, whatever. It's all good. I'm happy with that, and I'm also very comfortable with that. Here I am very openly speaking, and that's being part of this community that we kind of all created ourselves there, interestingly.
This organization and frequently talk about how controversial it has been in the past. However, a lot of people say we should just get over that because it was in the past and they've changed. And today I'm going to talk about all of that. I did a lot of research, and we're going to talk about the history of Autism Speaks and its old controversies, as well as its current problematic behavior and some of the things they seem to be trying to keep hidden from all of us. So let's start at the beginning. Autism Speaks was founded in 2005 by Bob and Suzanne Wright. These were just two people who started the organization after their grandson was diagnosed with autism. They looked around. They
Two very rich, influential people.
went to doctors. They found out there was no cure. So they started Autism Speaks in 2005 as a way to fund research to find a cure for autism. The original Autism Speaks mission statement read, quote, "We are dedicated to funding global biomedical research into the causes, prevention, treatments, and a possible cure for autism. We strive to raise public awareness about autism and its effect on individuals, families."
You know what, Purple? I'm kind of going to guess the same thing. And, I don't know. I just see, it's getting to the point where I just don't even give a shit about sex or gender anymore. People are people, and if someone wants to get weird or stupid about that, that's their problem. I love people. You know. Um, right. The hangups in Social Security, and that's why I was like, why am I not gay? And I was like, and this is the really funny thing. I was like, you know what? A penis never hurt me, so why would I be scared? You know. And then I realized that it literally, they say the Romans were gay, and that's not true. The Romans were not gay because they did not have that sexual identity associated with manhood or womanhood or womanhood or whatever. What it was they just didn't really have that identity. So they weren't gay. They were just having sex with other people, because you couldn't be gay because it wasn't a stigma and it wasn't a cultural thing. It was just people liked people. And so I laugh when people say that the Romans were gay, because they weren't at all. They just had sex.
And society. We work to bring hope to all those who deal with the hardships of this disorder. Their mission statement changed in 2016, but we'll get into all of that later. For now, all you need to remember is that the organization started as a way to cure, treat, and prevent autism. The organization was actually...
I love their hair, though. Oh my goodness. Curly and looks auburnish.
Founded
auburn eyebrows. Oh my goodness.
With a $25 million donation from the founder of Home Depot, Bernard Marcus. Bernard Marcus also served as a board member for Autism Speaks in the past, and Home Depot $1 million donation.
Okay, so it was 25 million. I thought it was 35 million. Nonetheless, 25 million to start out with advertising and so forth, and they merged 3 organizations. So it's like they had a massive jump start. You know, Purple, you're right. The whole thing about men shouldn't be with men, that was about breeding. They wanted to breed every female they could to make the tribe of Israel larger. It wasn't one of the bigger powers in the area at the time. So the reason that they did that whole thing came up was breeding. And that's why it was okay to go to another city, kill everyone's parent, the women's prepubescent girls, parents, murder their parents, and then make them sex slaves or whatever. The reason that was okay is because it was about breeding. The reason it was okay to raid other tribes within Israel was it was about breeding. They wanted to increase the size of their tribe. That's also the reason why it was perfectly fine to impregnate slaves and so forth. They wanted to get men to go fight and become more powerful.
From the founder of Home Depot, Bernard Marcus. Bernard Marcus also served as...
Now, the funny thing is about that is human beings are going to have sex. No matter what, we're going to have... We don't have to be heterosexual or anything else. Evolution does not care. All evolution cares about is that we procreate. So it doesn't... All that matters is that we have a sex drive. That's good enough. That's all that's needed. And so... everything else is just social BS. But no matter what sexual combinations we have, there's going to be pregnancies, and that's why we have survived.
As a board member for Autism Speaks in the past, and Home Depot is still one of their main donors. They even sell blue light bulbs for hashtag Light It Up Blue.
And this lady right here, I can't remember her name. She's on YouTube here, and she is so ableist and so persnickety. Like she speaks for autistic people, and she is just such an expert.
Blue which we will get into later. Remember that. The original Autism Speaks logo looked like this. However, this puzzle piece logo was actually based on...
Oh my god, Purple, that's great.
this puzzle piece logo, which came from the National Autism Alliance, which we're going to talk about right now. So the old National Autism Alliance logo was a black and green puzzle piece with a child crying in the middle, a little boy. And the creators of this logo said that the point of the puzzle piece was to say that autism was a puzzling condition and that we had to find the missing piece, that being the cure. They use phrases like until the puzzle is finished or until we find the missing piece, and that's all about curing autism. The crying boy in the center of the puzzle piece was supposed to serve as a reminder that autistic people are suffering from autism. And another thing that these two logos has in common is that they both kind of focus on boys, which is strange. So the green one has the boy crying in the middle, and the Autism Speaks logo was originally blue. A lot of us think that this is because autism, for most of its history, was believed to be a condition only affecting boys, and is still believed to be affecting mostly boys, even though the people who do...
The problem with the... now, Eileen Lamb was complaining about the puzzle piece. Well, people think that we think... and she was talking about misconceptions about Autism Speaks, and she was saying that the misconception of Autism Speaks with the puzzle piece was that Autism Speaks thinks that we're broken. And like she said, or they said here, there was a little bit of that, but it was also that we were missing a piece or whatever. The thing is this. That's not the issue. And what she did, just like we have seen years, I cannot believe how much dealing with all the people in the fundamentalists and so forth, like I did for years, how much it prepared me for this and to see through what's going on here. And I just lost my train of thought, so I'm going to let it roll.
That research completely ignore the fact that there is...
Oh, okay, so Eileen Lamb was complaining that we were nitpicking about the puzzle piece. This is the problem. It's not about nitpicking about the puzzle piece in particular. It's the fact that this symbol, whatever it was very insulting to the autistic community. And rather than go, oh, dang, we need to do something, they don't care. They're going to keep that puzzle piece, no matter how much it bothers the autistic community. That is such disrespect and disregard to the autistic community. What if the golden arches tomorrow were extremely offensive all over the world? Extremely offensive. They would have those golden arches taken down as quickly as possible. Particularly if they thought, it's going to go on for any period of time. And they would do something else. Why? Because they wouldn't want to offend their customers. But Autism Speaks basically is showing that they're just belligerence towards autistic people because they know that bothers autistic people and they don't care and they will not change it. So if they're not willing to change a nuanced thing like that, a nitpicky little teeny tiny thing like that, like she's trying to make it out to be, what about the big things?
Discrimination in that process. So a lot of autistic people don't like the puzzle piece logo because we are not confusing. We don't like being told.
Yeah, and immediately I'd scrap them. Okay, cool. And you just move on. It doesn't matter.
That we are missing pieces, we don't want to cure, and we are not all boys. But when we criticize the puzzle piece logo, a lot of people will say, oh, it doesn't symbolize that there are any pieces missing, or like, oh, it means that all the pieces fit, or it symbolizes community.
And I think a lot of, I think this person here is going to be stuck in that thing about nitpicking the puzzle piece without realizing that it is the flat-out belligerence and disrespect towards autistic people that is the big problem with that puzzle piece. And if it is a nitpicky little thing, like I said, if it's just a little teeny tiny problem, what about the big problems that they're ignoring?
Autism Speaks actually even has this defense up on their website of why they still use the puzzle piece. But no, like, you can look at the history of where the puzzle piece came from, and they will directly say it's because autism is confusing and we need to fix it and find a way to solve the autism problem. It does come from that. Like, all of those things that you want to use as an excuse sound great, and you're free to use this if you're autistic and you like it. But that's not where it comes from. So when it comes to what Autism Speaks does, Suzanne Wright, who has now passed away but was one of the original founders, has said that raising awareness is the first step. And raising awareness is one of the things that Autism Speaks is most known for. They create...
And they did. They did autism awareness, as we know it, is because of Autism Speaks. Flatly. That is the only thing that they have done that is positive. But when your starting point is genocide, there's no recovering. This is one way I'm putting it here recently. What if the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, who literally were murdering black people, and I'm saying black people, I don't want to be the most politically correct. There's people all over the world. I hope that's not offensive. But what if all of a sudden the KKK said, "Oh, well, that was the 60s. We're all better now. But now we represent black people. And if you want to know about black people, you don't go to black people. No, you go to us. You go to that Black People Speaks, because we know all about them black people, and we speak for them black people. Because we're the KKK, Ku Klux Klan, and we are very concerned about them black people." That would be so completely ludicrous. But that's literally what Autism Speaks has done. Their starting point was genocide.
Videos, public service announcements, advertising.
And am I being too harsh there? Am I out of line there with making that comparison?
And like documentaries, all to spread awareness of autism. They have also actually consulted with multiple like television producers and producers of movies who want to add autism representation. They were...
And you're right. I being autistic, I do want to give them credit wherever it is due, even if I am very, very bad against the organization. Yeah. I mean, is that comparison out of line? That analogy out of line? I kind of am afraid to use that somewhat, because then I'm afraid that I will offend some dark-skinned people or something like that. But it is literally the same thing, and that's what's so scary.
Worked with Sesame Street on creating the character Julia, but a more interesting example is that they worked with Sia, the musician, on creating the movie Music. So if you don't know, that movie has been very widely criticized by the autism community as well.
It's bad. Like, really bad. Like, it needs a warning at the start of it, sort of bad. Bad enough that it's promoting lethal methods to help autistic people.
This is Chloe. She is a very popular TikToker.
Like vomit of a mess.
She is autistic, by the way.
Of loud noises and vibrant colors, an entirely unwelcoming film set, and an entirely unwelcoming film for anyone with sensory issues, which autistic people have.
One thing that really got me shocked was watching her interview with Variety.
And this is Paige Lale. She's another very popular TikTok autistic creator.
At one point, the interviewer says something about how this autistic girl is nonverbal, which we prefer non-vocal, because non-vocal doesn't mean you can't communicate. She goes, she's basically, because she's nonverbal, she's like an inanimate object, like a wig. And Sia's like, mm-hmm. She's like, but you gave them a voice. You gave them a voice. And Sia's like, yeah, you know, I really did give them a voice.
But when we brought up those criticisms, Sia was like, I actually know what I'm doing. I'm working with Autism Speaks. And then the whole autism community was like, oh, we hate them. Why would you do that? But yeah, they apparently worked with Sia on this terrible, terrible movie. That's an example of some of the work they've done to raise awareness, but we are also going to watch some of their advertisements and videos that they have posted in the past. We're starting off with a video called Autism Every Day. This focuses on mothers of autistic children and how hard it is to be the parent of an autistic child. The full video is linked below. It's on YouTube for free if you want to watch it, but I'm going to react to a few of the highlights. One notable thing about this video is that it starts with just a montage of autistic children screaming, crying, having meltdowns. Some of them are hurting their parents or running away.
Yeah, actually, Chloe is an actress. Yeah, she is an actress. She might be a model. I don't know, but yeah. And unfortunately, she was stimming. She saw some whales and she started jumping up and down, and she was stimming, and I guess one of her friends took a video of it and everything, and she got tore up for that. She got absolutely tore up by a lot of people just for stimming in public and putting it on, normalizing stimming on TikTok. And she got so upset about it. I think she actually quit TikTok for a little while, took a break. It was really sad because watching her jump up and down and just she was so happy, and literally when I watched it, it was contagious, and I was sitting there flapping myself.
Yeah, this is super upsetting, and they just like cut all the clips together so that the viewer can know how bad it is to live with an autistic child. I also noticed that in several of these clips,
and I do that more and more now. I mean, I when I get excited, I mean, I did it when I was a kid, but I learned to stop, and now I don't give a shit. So I just do whatever my body wants, you know.
Specifically the ones where no one is getting hurt and no one is running away. There are several parents grabbing and like restraining their children to make them stop self-regulating and stimming, which is gross and not called out by Autism Speaks because
it actually is been found to be harmful to autistic people to stop them from stimming. Now, there can be some stim like banging your head against the wall that may not be good. So maybe we might need to teach a kid to flap or to tap their toe or whatever, something else that doesn't hurt them, and that's cool. But we cannot teach autistic people not to stim, not to self-regulate, because it is harmful to us.
You know.
Oh, by the way, Mark and Purple, if you guys haven't really gotten back into stimming or whatever, don't be ashamed of it or anything, particularly at home, and just let your body do what it needs to do to take care of yourself, you know. I used to tap my foot and shake my ankle so hard that I would literally start moving the chair around, start skipping across the floor.
I'm not going to show those clips on screen because it is super disrespectful and humiliating to show your child having a meltdown to thousands of people. Like when you click play on the video, it's just automatically, immediately a montage of children in extreme distress and their parents not helping them. And nobody benefits from you posting meltdowns online. It's not educational, it's not helping the child, it's not helping the parents. It's literally disgusting. And I don't really see why anyone has ever done this, but they still keep doing it. And the whole point of this in this video seems to be to make it seem like autism is just entirely bad and that autism is a disease that is torturing these children and making them a burden on their families. But don't worry, it gets much worse.
And the kids are torturing the parents.
Remember how I said that posting a video of your child having a meltdown is very humiliating and you shouldn't do that? 5 seconds later, one of these mothers is changing her kid's diaper, just live in front of the cameraman, also in front of the 200,000 people that watch this video. The kid's like 5 or 6 and she's talking about how much of an inconvenience it is to still have to change his diaper while recording almost like barely censored footage of her wiping.
Cade was, I used to joke, Cade, I used to joke that he, and I had no idea he was autistic. I knew that he had epilepsy, and I accounted a lot to the epilepsy and so forth. But I used to joke about whether he would talk and be out of a diaper by the time he got to school. And it literally got down to the point of me just looking at him and saying, look, you're going to be the only dang kid in a diaper. So you got to do something because they are going to be very mean to you. And he started using the toilet. I also had to literally teach him to talk at that point in time, because we called it tater talk, because we called him taters, but he had his own sort of lisp or whatever. There were certain things that he couldn't pronounce or whatever, and so we took a lot of time, and I personally taught him to speak, but I mean with a lot of effort, doing drills and so forth, la 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 la, na 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 na, you know, whatever, and saying different parts of words and breaking them up, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, he was very late, and of course, now we know, you know, that he was autistic, very obviously. You don't have Tourette's, do you, Purple? I tick. No, 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 that kind of thing like that. And I'll make random noises, particularly now when I go out into town. It's getting worse and worse because I'm more relaxed at home. Then I get out in town, I'm like, bleh. And I'll make some random noise, and my wife will look at me, I don't know.
Her kid's ass. I feel like if I said this to the mother in that video, she wouldn't see what the problem is, but if I posted a video of her wiping her ass and showed it to a couple thousand people, if I showed it to even like 5 people, I think she would take me to court. Weird how that is. Okay, next the moms start talking about—
I did not know that. I did not know that. Now, I definitely tick. And I stutter, but I do not fit the criteria for Tourette's by any means. Definitely not Tourette's. I'm an autistic person that ticks in certain ways, and it's definitely not as bad as Tourette's can be, or as challenging for me as Tourette's can be, in that respect.
How autism ruined their lives, basically, that they had to give up who they are, they had to give up their friends, all of their lives revolve around autism now, they've all quit their jobs.
Everything I do is about autism.
I really had to give up my entire life as I knew it.
Well, I left the job that I never intended to leave.
And I did have to quit my job.
Our entire social life revolves around autism.
I think it's interesting that these are the people who would likely correct me to using person first language and saying like a person with autism instead of autistic person, because they think that you have to like remind yourself that the child is more than a diagnosis.
Okay, I also am narcoleptic. So this is what's sad. I will start ticking in my sleep. So as I'm starting to go to sleep, I'll start dreaming before I actually I lose consciousness. And then if my brain's not right, I'll start ticking really bad, and finally my wife will be like, get up. And what I call it is a reboot. I will have to get my brain active in something so I'm no longer in that sleep cycle, and then I can try again. I'll be dang.
But when they're talking about it, one of them, I think multiple of them, say, my life revolves around autism, instead of saying...
My daughter, she was definitely talking at one, and I don't know, she was, I think, 3 and reading. By the time she got to school, they were giving her books to read, like Hunger Games and stuff like that were like your teenage books or whatever, and that's when she got to school. She's autistic too. She manifested very differently than me and Cade. She is a girl, and she definitely was much better at masking and so forth. Oh, you have RLS too. I do. I have RLS too. I totally forgot about that. That I have RLS, but yeah, I have RLS too.
Saying my life revolves around.
I'm taking some medicines. The beta blockers, I believe, are supposed to help with that. And because I'm PDA and the flight response, it also helps with the flight response. So beta blockers, of course, with your doctor's blah, blah, blah advice, they can be helpful. Oh, my word. Wow. Well, I don't, not for a moment do I doubt it, Purple. Not, and I bet you Mark's the same way as far as having an excellent vocabulary very young.
A disabled child. And I think it's kind of this interesting thing about person first language, where it allows you to separate the person from the autism as if those two things aren't innately like together. So they can say how much they hate autism without having to admit that they hate their child. And that's something I find really interesting about this video. Although, in a few seconds, we are going to...
That's why I really do not like person first language, because then you're saying person with that disease, a person with autism, with cancer, instead of... that's, and they still have that attitude. That it's a disease, and that's the tone of Autism Speaks website, is that it is a disease, although they do plainly state that they do not believe that autism is a disease. I'm taking gabapentin right now, although I would take like 100 milligrams, although if I'm feeling a little tweaky or whatever, my wife had these 600 milligram tablets that I do not split in half and take, so that I would get a 300 milligram dose sometimes. That does not happen. I just want to make that very clear.
I see some of them directly talk about how much they hate their children.
You know, your heart is breaking all day long. You know, you think about his future and all the pain he's in, and I don't think they can understand that.
Okay, this mom says that her child is in constant pain, even though autism is not an...
The gabapentin is definitely... Exactly. The way I see it, my brain was developed in my mother's womb, and it's the way my brain grew as a autistic brain. And some people have holistic brains. Some people have blonde hair. Some people... so in that respect, it's just a different brain type for me. And so by saying I'm an autistic person, I'm identifying who I am by my brain type and how my brain works. What type of... kind of saying like I'm a Caucasian or something like that. Identifying my human type more specifically. Yeah, I do 100 milligrams of gabapentin a day for the most part. And then sometimes, like I said, I do take it for anxiety if I'm getting very meltdowny.
Inherently painful condition. So the only part of autism that should be like painful, I think, is sensory issues, which can be accommodated. Like he doesn't have any...
I'm going to disagree with that. Yes, you do. Well, as far as pain itself, yes, there are sensory issues, but the emotional things like alexithymia, coordination issues, there's so many different things. Like right now my knee hurts, and that's probably from the Ehlers-Danlos, and you've got comorbidities too. So.
Any sensory gear. He doesn't have any headphones, earplugs, he doesn't have sunglasses. Like if he's in pain, then maybe that's why.
And one thing about the sunglasses, I wish you talk about the sunglasses and earplugs and all that stuff. I did not know to use those. I thought everybody hurt just as much as I did, and so I just sucked it up like everyone else. I cowboyed up. because it would be, I would look goofy as shit, obviously, if I was wearing freaking big old headphones and hearing protection and stuff like that. Nobody else was. So, I mean, it never even occurred to me. Now that I've discovered that I'm autistic, I'm like, hey, I'm using those resources. Absolutely. I don't know anything about the Xanax.
Or she is falsely attributing the signs of a different comorbid condition to autism to make autism seem worse. Or she's seen too many Autism Speaks ads and now thinks that autism causes immense suffering and misery.
One thing about autism that is a huge, huge problem, and it still happens to this day, and that is that people conflate autism with intellectual disabilities. You can be autistic and have intellectual challenges, and not. One's quote IQ or intellectual abilities. You can have people with intellectual challenges that are not autistic. You can have people that are autistic. So there is no direct relation in that respect. However, autistic people, about 30% of us do in fact have intellectual challenges, and so we have a much higher propensity to have those both together, and that's why they are very often conflated.
Vote below. Okay, and the next two sections of the video, they talk about real issues that are...
I used to always wear hats and so forth. I've got hat collection up here, like... Let me see if I could show you here. Like, I've got hats hanging up all over the place. That was actually some of my hats that I wore out on the when I had my farm. I had a farm, and that was actually one of my actual cowboy hats I used all the time. But I didn't know about sunglasses, and now I use them all the time. In fact, I have prescription tinted shades. Most of my glasses are tinted, and then, because I've been watching Autism Speaks website and so forth, I wear these glasses over the top of my tinted glasses. And I have some that are very dark, actually, tinted glasses.
Are actually really interesting to hear about. So firstly, they talk about eloping, which is autistic children and adults tend to just like get up and leave.
When Kate committed suicide, I ended up, it was so weird. I got my little weeble wobble. I couldn't believe I had my little weeble wobble here, and I was like, this is my Kate, this is my Kate, this is my Kate, this is my Kate. I was in such shock, and I just tried it all. And I ended up miles away, and finally my wife and stepdaughter followed me,
ran out the door.
or found me.
For himself, which was absolutely terrifying. It was freezing cold, no shirt on and no shoes on.
Daniel had walked at the front door.
He got away from me, and he was running down the middle of First Avenue.
She took off once, and we had to call the police.
I immediately called the police.
I was just running straight on into traffic.
And all of the moms have a story about this happening. This is absolutely a real thing that happens. It's happened to me when I was little.
That happened with Cade once. So I wouldn't necessarily call that an autistic thing, and it never really happened with my daughter. We all have the flight response, but nothing like just eloping like I did when Cade died.
Little kid, I would just get up and leave. Also, when I was 14, I just like walked away in a different state that I had never been to. I just walked away from my family, and they had to call the cops to come and find me. I also still get lost in like grocery stores and stuff, so I can imagine for someone who is a very young child or who just has...
I am constantly touching my wife when we go out into any public place. And I think sometimes people think I'm blind because touching her is it's very soothing for me, and I won't lose her or get distracted or whatever because I'm constantly touching her. And so it's much easier for me to deal with stores. Also now I'll wear hats and sunglasses and put in earplugs, so I can actually deal with going to the stores and stuff much better than before I knew I was autistic. And before, like, I'd never touched my wife like that before, but yeah, like I said, it's almost like a blind person, but it was really helpful. Really, really helpful to do that.
Higher support needs, this could be very dangerous. And then next they go on to talk about how they're perceived by other people, that people assume that they're just bad parents, or they can't control their kids, or they must be like hurting their kid to make them like scream in public.
We're just judged.
Hi, I'm Sam Jordan,
Or they
Director of
just
Humanitarian
think their
Action for
kid's
the
an
International
asshole.
Rescue Committee. Conflict and
More harshly and more constantly, and expected to do things that no human being should be expected to do.
Why is she screaming?
Why is he hitting himself?
What are you doing to her? Why are you making her cry?
And I say, well, you know, are you an expert in autism?
And
It's all about the parents and their sob story.
those parts may even have been good parts of a video to watch if they weren't like spliced up with also footage.
Exactly, Purple. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. I kind of like hold the shoulder or whatever. Exactly, and there's that comfort, but you also know you're not going to get separated and lost, or at least you're going to be together, and that's how it is for me, and that is so helpful.
Of children screaming and in extreme distress and their parents ignoring them and complaining about them. As well as if they focused at all on what the children are experiencing. That's something that goes throughout this entire ad. Other than that one woman who seems a little...
By the way, how is Sloth Girl? How is Sloth Girl? I haven't been caught up on that for a little while now.
confused and is saying that her son's in extreme pain. Like, for the rest of it, they don't talk about how the children who are autistic have to deal with autism and being autistic. No, they only talk about how this affects parents. And I know...
Isn't it funny? No, it's so funny because I guess this is just pattern seeking or whatever, but nowadays as I comment on these videos, I can kind of see what's coming, and a lot of that came from, remember how I used to watch Kate's videos, and I would stop it and make my response, and then I would listen to her response and so forth, and a lot of that, it was really prepared me for what I'm doing now. It's really cool.
This specific video is about parents, but that is a common theme you will see.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, and I'm sad to hear about the chemo. I know that drains people's energy away severely, and that's so not cool. But I am happy because, frankly, a year or two ago, we didn't know she was going to be here, right? So I'm very, very happy that she is...
See among all of what Autism Speaks does. Okay, this is the part. This is the part that we need to talk about. This is the very bad part.
Oh, that's great. Hair.
When I realized I had sat in the car for about 15 minutes and actually contemplated putting Jody in the car and driving off the George Washington Bridge, and that would be preferable to having to put her in one of these schools. And it's only because of Lauren, the fact that I have another child, that I probably didn't do it.
So that woman just sat there and laughed and like smiled with her child in the background while she talked about how she thought of...
I remember. I was like, oh, I remember wondering if she was going to make it like through the next couple of weeks. And I know you were wondering that yourself at times. Yeah, she'd been through a lot.
About ending her own life and murdering her daughter for being disabled. Because she would rather that than have her like in a school that she doesn't want to go to. And she said that the only thing stopping her from doing this is the fact that she has a non-disabled child and she needs to stay alive for that kid. She just said this in front of that child. I don't care how little she thinks this girl comprehends. I don't care how little she thinks her daughter is able to understand. You're a terrible fucking parent and you hate your child and you just said that in front of them.
Okay, this lady that said that, she also was a employee of Autism Speaks. And one thing I want to say is I think we also need to take and consider her psyche. I don't think a person with a healthy mindset would have considered murdering their child, autistic or not. So I want to put that caveat out there that maybe she didn't feel like that, or maybe she did regret it. I know she said that she phrased it very badly or something like that, kind of. But I think we definitely need to keep that aspect in mind. As much as I quote, speak out against the quote autism mom and so forth, we also need to keep into perspective that they're human beings that are dealing. They wanted what in their mind was a quote perfect child, and they did not get what they wanted. They got an autistic kid, which is a perfectly normal human being. Also, I think they just, due to society and stigma and so forth, it is not processed as such as a normal human being, because we are a normal brain type. We've been around for a very long time, which literally, like a redhead, they're 1% of the population also. So do you have that same stigma towards a redhead as an autistic person? One thing I also tell people is, if you think about particular, now in China this may not work too well, but like if you go to the grocery store, every time you see a redhead, you have seen an autistic person, or you have had contact with an autistic person. Just I think that's an interesting way to put it. But redheads are not considered abnormal, are they? They are considered a normal human type of hair. We are a normal human type of brain.
This part is fucking enraging, and it gets worse. So let's talk about it. 1 month after that video was released, a different mother in...
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We kids do remember things.
in Illinois did kill her child. She took her 3-year-old autistic daughter to the park, put a plastic bag over her head, and suffocated her for being autistic. And that murder has nothing to do with Autism Speaks, right? So why am I bringing it up? I am bringing this up because there is an article, this article, that I read about that. And the tone of that article is extremely similar to...
Autism Speaks did not put the bullet in through my son's brain. They did not directly kill my son. My son at 22 years old refused to get mental health because of the stigma. Autism Speaks has spread the stigma against autistic people, and even getting mental health in general. It's such a stigma that he didn't want to get mental health. So he blew his fucking brains out. I do hold Autism Speaks accountable for their portrayal of autistic people and our mental state. I do hold Autism Speaks accountable for the stigma of getting mental health and admitting that you're autistic or that you might need help. I do hold Autism Speaks 100% accountable for that. Maybe if they had not had put out those commercials and spread that stigma about autistic people, maybe there wouldn't have been the same stigma of mental health. The only reason that we know about autism awareness at all, basically, is because of Autism Speaks. So we know they have had an extremely powerful message. When people think of autism, the first thing they think of is Autism Speaks. They've been extremely successful in that. My son is dead.
To the tone of this Autism Speaks ad. and pretty much like how Autism Speaks wants people to think about autism and autism moms. They show us this mother who's complaining, saying that she thought about killing her kid, and we're supposed to feel bad for her. The point of that is that we're supposed to know how hard she struggles and how hard this must be for her, instead of thinking that she's a terrible mother who wanted to kill her child. And this article written about the person who actually did kill their daughter, this article is extremely similar. The entire article is about how hard it is to be a parent of an autistic child, rather than being about this woman who murdered her daughter in cold blood for being disabled. Christopher Kenny, autism dad and legislative director of the Autism Society of Illinois, said this about the murder. Quote, "Whatever comes out of the McCarran case, it is already clear that many, many people in our community have seen something of themselves in it." That's him literally saying, whatever happens, whether this mom killed her kid or not.
That's disgusting.
A lot of us know what it's like to be that mom. We know what it's like to want to murder our children. We think about that all the time. And...
Wow. Very well said. Very well said. Very well put.
We really should feel bad for us. I know there's a little girl who's dead, but maybe this is about me, you know? He continued to say, quote, "Concerned parents have communicated the feelings of despair and isolation so many of us have felt at different times in our lives with autism. We cannot ignore the bigger picture and context within which this and other such acts occur." So in that part, he's basically...
Okay, this last part actually isn't quite so bad, and I can understand the frustration and so forth. And it's okay to actually express these things. The problem is when that's the tone. When that is where the conversation is and never deviates. That's where it becomes extremely dangerous. I hated this changing stinky diapers when I was actually I didn't care that much. It was my kids, but so yeah, I can complain about that. But if I all I did was complain about stinky diapers to this day, then there would be something really wrong with that. And perseverating on those disabilities and how horrible it is wrong. And it's not even accurate, because as horrible as my life has been in many ways, there's been very many good things too.
Basically saying that this isn't just like a crime that happened and it shouldn't be talked about as one. We need to talk about how hard it is to be a parent, and we need to understand why she did that, and that it's because there aren't enough resources, which there aren't. And the entire article...
Exactly! That's the crazy thing, Purple, is like I Am Autism. Okay, a bunch of people produced that. They called a bunch of people's parents, and they got those clips from the kids, and they said they were going to do something great for autism or something like that. And the parents did not know how those films were going to be used, and I guess a bunch of them were upset when the I Am Autism ad came out.
Kind of just goes on like that in a very similar tone to the Autism Speaks video. It just talks about how...
You know, I want to talk about this parenting thing. You know, I've so often heard, well, and these are very, very progressive people. Well, it's 50%. I do 50% as the father, and she does 50% as the mother. And I say bullshit. I divorced my children's mother, but I will tell you this. She gave 100% all the time, and I gave 100% all the time. My kids weren't getting 50%, they were getting 200%. Ideally. But that's how we looked at it. If she was in the bathroom and the diaper needed to be changed, I changed it. If I was cooking dinner, she changed it. If I was taking a nap, she changed it. If she was sleeping, that kind of thing. I never ever considered it there was never any keeping tabs. It was how can we best take care of our kids, and that was the only thing we cared about. So that's what it was, and so I really appreciate that. What you said there, Mark. That's so cool. And I also want to say that I think with a lot of autistic men, frankly, I think we're better fathers in a lot of respect. And I'm not saying, well, I am saying it. I truly believe that, and I think it's because our children a lot of times become our hyper focus, then we really we doubt ourselves, so we kind of become overly vigilant. Whereas neurotypical people, they can kind of coast through it and not have to worry about everything quite as much as we do. And so I think parenting in some respects is much easier for them. But in a lot of respects, I think they don't have that super focus or almost obsession with trying to be perfect parents that I've seen a lot of autistic people. And I've also seen autistic families tend to be much more involved together, so to speak, rather than going out golfing and so forth, that kind of thing. This could be my observation, and it could be complete BS, so I don't know, but that's kind of how it seemed to me.
How we can't really blame the mom because it's so hard to be an autism parent. And I'm not blaming this girl's death on Autism Speaks. Unlike the people in this article, I am blaming the death on the murderer. The reason that I'm bringing this up in the conversation about Autism Speaks is because it, first of all, came out 1 month after they released a video of a mother saying that this is what it's like to be an autism mom. But also
that worked for Autism Speaks.
Because the tone in that video and the way that they make it
and the tone of that website is still awful.
Seem like whatever these parents do to their kids and whatever they feel about their kids is completely like valid and okay when it isn't, is extremely similar to how this article is written. And I will have the article linked below if you want to read it and see how similar these are. But for the rest of the Autism Everyday video, they go on to talk about how autism destroyed their lives, their marriages, it drained their entire bank accounts and put them in debt. And instead of blaming the fact that we don't have a healthcare system, we don't have support for these kids, we don't have like free counseling or mental health treatment for parents, instead of blaming any of those things, we're supposed to blame autism and want to find a cure to autism even more. Next, we're going to talk about a more popular ad, the one that I was referencing in the beginning of this video. This is the I Am Autism video from Autism Speaks. Autism Speaks has deleted this video and apologized for posting it, but it's still free on YouTube and we're still going to react to it right now, and then we'll talk about the apology and everything later.
And the thing is when this is the starting point, and this is why I refer to the KKK, when this is your attitude towards a human being, and then you say, oh no, we're the good people, we're speaking for them, it's disgusting.
The written out transcript of this video is also linked in the description.
I am autism. I'm visible in your children, but if I can help it, I am invisible to you until it's too late. I know where you live, and guess what? I live there too. I work very quickly.
Now, let's frame this a little bit. This is 2009. This is not an 80s grainy film. This is 2009. That they did this and made it so weird and creepy.
I work faster than pediatric AIDS, cancer, and diabetes combined.
Oh my god. Yeah, so this ad is supposed to be narrated by autism itself. It has a deep demonic voice, and that is supposed to be the voice of autism, this disease that is out to kill your children and take them away from you and ruin your life. It frames autism as a disease that is almost like a parasite that attaches itself to your child.
And they still say people with autism as if it's a disease. On that website, it's still framed very much as a disease. Like I said, they did change, and now they are using some identity first language, and I know that's because of me. And whatever, you know, if I can help them improve and they want to listen to me, then fine. And I don't ever take credit for, I've never really taken credit for anything like this, but I know what's going on here. I see it.
It's not part of who they are. It's something that is destroying them from the inside out. It also compares autism to cancer and pediatric AIDS, specifically in a way that makes it sound like it is worse than both of those combined, as well as diabetes, and that's just super fucking
It kind of makes it sound like it's worse than death.
disrespectful both to autistic people, but also to cancer survivors and people who die of cancer, as well as pediatric AIDS. What the hell?
And if you are happily married, I will make sure that your marriage fails. Your money will fall into my hands, and I will bankrupt you for my own self-gain. I don't sleep, so I make sure you don't either. No cure for me. Your scientists don't have the resources, and I relish their desperation. Your neighbors are happier to pretend that I don't exist, of course, until it's their child. I am autism. I have no interest in right or wrong.
Okay, as it continues, once again, we're focusing on how autism affects everyone except for autistic people. Instead of showing that autistic people are real-life humans who can think and feel, it decides to instead make it out like they are a burden on their entire families who only exist to be a burden. You may also notice that they're only showing clips of children, similar to the last video. They focus entirely on autistic children and never autistic adults. This video also seems like kind of a failed attempt at a smear campaign. Like, they were trying to fearmonger and make it seem like autism is the worst thing in the world, but the clips that are—
And why did they do that? Money. Money, money, money.
under this horror movie music and this horrifying narration are just clips of kids who are like playing and standing around not doing anything wrong. So it seems like they wanted this to be like super scary and make everyone so scared of autism. But the autistic kids are doing great. They're just chilling there. Anyway, let's watch the rest of the ad. I'm sure that they'll focus on actually disabled people and not just parents and caregivers in the second half.
And then they're going to show the kid, and you're going to see him. The kid looks just like me. And you know, when you're editing and so forth, you get that freeze face. If it was me, if Autism Speaks always loved to catch that look to make the kids look more autistic. That freeze face or whatever, and you'll see it here, and it looks just like.
And to autism I say,
it's terrifying. Oh no, they're skipping past it. What a bummer.
A father,
a mother, a grandparent,
brother,
a sister.
I am a parent riding towards you.
You forget the spirit of mothers and daughters and fathers and sons.
We are
the United Kingdom.
United States. We are Argentina.
We are Russia.
We are the European Union.
We are the United Nations.
Has Kyrie texted you back?
I don't want to talk about it.
How was the math test?
Haha, nope. They repeat the fact that this is entirely about parents, siblings, grandparents, teachers, scientists, Russia. This is about everyone except for autistic people. And they repeat that line like 4 times. Like I said, Autism Speaks removed the I Am Autism video and apologized, and we're gonna get into that. I think it's a great way to transition to all of the ways that
But their attitude has not changed. Overtly in the open, they are changing a lot of their wording and so forth. But if you look at the tone of the website overall, it is still labelist as hell. It never qualifies an autistic person as knowing anything about autism. It never qualifies the autistic community as knowing anything about autism. My grandmother was autistic. My mother was autistic. I'm autistic. My children are autistic. I think one of my grandchildren may be. That's 5 generations. 5 generations of autistics. That's a lot of experience. And the fact that we know we're autistic, and that we, because I am autistic and my daughter is autistic and so forth, we have a propensity to study and understand ourselves. So we may need assistance with many things sometimes, or not a lot of things. But
they've changed throughout the Before we can get into that though, we need to talk about the biggest reason that people hate Autism Speaks, and I've alluded to it multiple times by now. But let's talk about why we don't want a cure for autism. Firstly, unlike what Autism Speaks wants you to believe, autism...
Yeah. My stepsister, when I said after Cade committed suicide, I mentioned that he was autistic on YouTube or something, and my stepsister came on and said, he's not autistic. And I had to ask my daughter if they had ever met my stepsister. And she's like, yeah, a couple of times. But yeah, she didn't even know him. She's met him a couple of times, but she didn't know him.
Autism is not an inherently painful and miserable condition. It's not a disease at all, actually. It's just a neurotype. And a lot of people who have that neurotype, a lot of autistic people, are suffering and struggling a lot for a lot of different reasons. But many of those could be solved by just accommodating autistic people, not getting rid of autistic people. Some people are non-vocal and have no way to express themselves. This could be solved by...
Purple, I remember when I basically told you guys I was autistic on a live stream. I'm like, oh, okay. So what else has been going on? It was so casual, like, hey, wait a minute, because it was so casual, and it was beautiful, actually, because nobody gave a shit. They cared about me as a human being, but it was like, okay, I've got brown hair. That's cool. That's awesome. And it's because we're all pretty much autistic, queer, trans, and it was just like, yeah, we're all humans. We all got things.
by using alternative communication.
No damn big deal. No surprise.
Or allowing them to write or type or use an iPad or speak in other ways other than out loud. However, a lot of parents of autistic children will refuse to give their kids any other form of communication in hopes that that will make them more likely to speak out loud. I've also heard of many issues where ABA therapists will take away communication devices as a punishment to teach kids that they shouldn't be doing a behavior. So the problem of non-vocal people...
And that's called negative reinforcement, and that is a sanctioned... I guess treatment or sanctioned thing. I think it's wrong, but it is sanctioned, and it is considered okay by behavioral science and ABA to use negative reinforcement. And that's what those shock treatments are. They're negative reinforcement. You don't act the way I want you to. I'm gonna shock your ass.
Well, not being able to express themselves doesn't need to be solved by making a cure so that they can talk. It can be solved by just allowing them to communicate in different ways. Similarly, many autistic people are extremely lonely and are bullied or excluded from a lot of groups and activities. We don't need to cure autism in order to solve this problem. We could just be nice to autistic people. Many of us can't work or can't work regular jobs, and because of that, many of us will endure poverty and homelessness, even if we're on disability. But the solution to that isn't getting rid of autism. It's things like making housing a human right, giving people basic necessities regardless of if they have any income, improving disability services, or...
And this is one thing that I've been talking about, and I hope Autism Speaks gets the message. Because of their history with genocide and eugenics, they are putting millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars towards science research. And due to their history, they will always be questioned. And they will never be completely trusted when they donate to science. I don't care how good it is. I don't care if it is supposed to help us with our stemming. I don't care if it's supposed to help us with our lights. It does not matter how good it is. When Autism Speaks donates to science, it will never, ever, ever be trusted. And the autistic community will never, ever approve of it. So why don't you take those millions upon millions of dollars and put it towards autistic services. Improving disability service, like you're saying, employment opportunity. And they're going to say, oh, we do that already. No, you don't. What they do is it's very minimalistic. It's like I was saying before. Well, just go to the website. That's the resources, and if they can't find it or don't get anything, so what? I know they do have. They say they have services as far as employment. I do not know of any autistic person that has been employed from those services. It may have happened. I don't know.
Starting employment opportunities specifically for disabled people. Autism doesn't need to be cured to do any of that. And there are plenty of other problems like this that could be solved by making the world a better place for autistic people to live instead of making the world...
And one thing, Purple, what you're saying here is bring me to another issue. In our society, this is why there's so much ableism towards and hate, discontent, whatever, towards autistic people. I think 80% of us don't work at all. I've never worked, are unemployed, as I am now. I'm in that category. As human beings, basically, generally in the world today, a person's worth is judged by their productivity. Basically, how much they can earn or how much they can produce, etc. When you have a disability, it doesn't matter what it is, your productivity becomes decreased, or at least is perceived that way. And it doesn't matter if you're an amputee. Once you are perceived as being less productive, you are considered to be less human. And you are dehumanized. And it is just how the world works. So with that being said, there is always going to be a stigma against autistic people.
World a place where no autistic people live by curing autism. And that's the next point. They'll talk about how important it is to find a cure and how it would help so many autistic people, but they refuse to acknowledge that by doing that we could very well eradicate autistic people from existence. And a lot of people will defend this by saying that the cure would be optional, which it might be, but who would get to make that decision? Because Autism Speaks and similar organizations focus as much of their resources as they can on early detection of autism, finding the diagnosis as...
And they are still doing that today, and that still goes back towards the eugenics. Because with that early detection, if we can find out that that fetus is going to be autistic, well, maybe we can, you know, kind of get rid of that thing. Make another one that's a little better, you know what I'm saying? Or try to do some kind of DNA thing or whatever to change the brain so that it's neurotypical. So that I wouldn't think, I wouldn't be who I am, I would be someone else.
As young as possible. So I doubt that their goal in doing that is to identify the autism, but then wait, allow the children to grow up, understand what's going on with them, understand their place in the world and what neurodiversity is, and then allow autistic people themselves to weigh the pros and cons and make a decision when they're old enough to consent. No, this would be parents who just watch something like Autism Every Day and think autism is a terrible disease because of organizations like Autism Speaks, automatically deciding to cure their children without their consent. If there was a cure, which is probably impossible, it would not be up to autistic people whether...
It is impossible to cure. It would be like trying to cure a German Shepherd of being a German Shepherd or a Dalmatian of being a Dalmatian. They're dogs! I mean, they're all dogs. We're all humans. But if you were to cure a Dalmatian of being a Dalmatian, you would have to kill it. And no matter what, if you were to do DNA changes and make it into a German Shepherd or a Labrador, then it would no longer be a Dalmatian. And so that is eugenics. That is genocide. You would, or you would make Dalmatians or autistic people extinct. And most of our greatest inventors, Galileo, Tesla, Turing, Edison or what, Einstein, these people were all autistic, or more than likely autistic, almost positively autistic. And so if you think about that, we wouldn't have electricity, none of the devices that we live with every day. We wouldn't have cars, anything, without autistic people. The autistic brain type is essential to mankind to survive. We would still be in the Stone Age, literally, without those autistic people I just mentioned, in a sense. So even though it can be very difficult, and that there's a higher percentage of autistic people that can, in the industrial sense, be less productive, because of our different brain type, we are able to think in ways that neurotypical people cannot. And thus we are able to come up with ideas and innovations that neurotypical people are incapable of. Now, it doesn't mean we're all Galileo or Einstein or anything else. But a lot of times, particularly in companies or whatever, we may have 100 people all working on one project or whatever, and then there's that one autistic kid. Well, why don't we do this? And it works out. And that's cool. And that can happen with neurotypical people also, but it is a thing that is not to be unexpected with an autistic person. In fact, it is to kind of to be expected. Definitely not surprising. So it would be an absolute travesty for autistic people to be gone. And I don't know if the humankind literally could survive, because maybe we wouldn't have those problem solvers, that unorthodox thinking when some disease or whatever, space aliens, who knows, whatever comes.
Whether or not we take it. Not to mention that the assumption that this would just be optional is kind of not
Akbar.
Evidence. There are many countries with universal healthcare that don't allow autistic people to immigrate to their country, do not allow them to have work visas there. And the UK went as far as putting us on non-consensual do not resuscitate, because they would rather literally let their citizens die rather than being a burden on the economy. So if the government could save some money by making autistic people get cured and getting rid of us, I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say that they would do it. So keep all of that in mind as we talk about how Autism Speaks has changed.
I have heard about that, autistic people being automatic DNRs. Have you heard anything? I need to look into that. I remember hearing something about that, and I was absolutely shocked. I need to look that up. Actually, I might look it up now. Maybe it's just bullshit, but I know I've heard something about that before. Or not Autism Speaks. I'll put do not resuscitate. Oh! Holy hell, this is from England. This is current. This just popped up. Do not attempt. This is home coronavirus documents. Do not attempt, I don't know who this is, NHS. Do not attempt CPR. And on DNA CPR and people with a learning disability or autism. I'm in absolute fucking shock. I'm speechless. We are less than human beings. Just like with the Judge Rottenberg's center, where they can give basically shocks that are more than what you get from a police baton or what have you. That is far more than you can legally administer to a dog. We are thought less of than a dog. They don't have anything about not resuscitating dogs that are acting kind of weird. I am so disappointed in England. Wow. Yeah, that's March. Let's see, this is dated March 9th, 2023. I think it's the same thing. Yeah. Oh my God. And they're talking about Downs people. Oh. 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 Fuck. Wow, 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 wow.
And supposedly is no longer looking for a cure for autism. In the Q&A section of Autism Speaks website, they have a question called, "Why did we remove I Am Autism?" The response, quote, "I Am Autism was a mistake and the video was removed from our channels shortly after it was posted in 2009. We apologize for the video and any harm it may have caused." Firstly, you may notice that they are apologizing as little as possible. They aren't saying like what they did wrong. They say any harm the video may have caused rather than saying any harm they have caused.
We have caused, yeah.
And they say that it may have caused harm, as if they don't know for a...
Okay, this person's autistic. This person's autistic. This brain here is definitely, that's an autistic brain right there.
fact that it did. So, terrible apology, but at least they removed the video. They also tell people to stop spreading it. They say, "We know a lot of people are still spreading the video, and we really wish you would stop doing that. Can you please just pretend this didn't happen?" So, oopsie, I spread the video. If I personally had a...
But then they double down, and they continue to do the same. I believe that other video... there was another video they made about that. They made the two videos, the one that she talked about before, and they didn't learn anything. I don't remember which one was which. I know I Am Autism was 2009. I think the other one was 2013.
A misunderstanding of autism as a whole and then made a video similar to the I Am Autism one. I would not remove it. Maybe I would. I'd remove it as it is. But then I would make a video including it and talk about how wrong the people who perceive autism this way are and how like uneducated I used to be. But I guess ignoring the fact that it...
Yes, but you're an autistic person and you have integrity. Just saying.
Whatever happened is also a good...
Oh my God, I'm looking at my face as I'm making these expressions and so forth. And remember how I used to love talking about Kate and her facial expressions and so forth?
Solution, and that's something about Autism Speaks. You can say they've changed as much as you want to, but they never actually say what they did wrong. Like, ever. As far as I've seen, they've never actually apologized for anything specific. They say, "We took down the I Am Autism video," but they don't say that autism isn't a disease and they shouldn't have made it look like one. They took the word cure out of their mission statement, but they don't actually say, "We are sorry, we
Okay, they have said that autism is not a disease now.
shouldn't have said that."
It's still framed as a disease, but they've officially said it is not.
There needed to be a cure. There doesn't need to be a cure. They don't actually apologize for anything specific or say that they aren't behaving that way anymore, because they still are. So autism...
And the weird thing is Eileen Lamb, the autistic person, Token here. Let's see where Token is. Come on, there's Token. Eileen Lamb. Now, both of her boys are autistic. Now, this is something interesting, Mark. Eileen is autistic, and her two sons are autistic. Now, she said, I heard her say this on one of her videos, that one of her sons was diagnosed as autistic, and it was paid for by Autism Speaks. Okay, I also heard, and I have not seen this statement from her, so I don't know that this is factual. It probably is true, but she said, evidently, she said that her son, or one of her sons, or her sons were in a school, and that Autism Speaks was paying for that. Remember that $400,000 that is earmarked to go specifically to autistic families? She qualifies. She's autistic. Her kids are autistic. So she is a corporate executive that I saw one place, and I don't know that it's true, but she got like a $250,000 bonus. Yet she's in that. So what they're doing, I think, and I don't know this for a fact, but she does qualify in that category. So I'm pretty darn sure they paid for those things out of that fund of that $400,000. It's sensical. So even the money that goes back to the autistic families is going straight back to the executive staff, if I'm right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Most of it goes to their executives. There are millions of dollars in bonuses alone. I think the CEO Mark gets like technically $650,000. It might be more as base pay. There's over a $400,000 expense account that he has. It's almost equivalent to what they actually give to autistic families, is just his expense account, and that does not mention his bonus. Now, if it is true, in fact, that she did get a $250,000 bonus, and I think that is true, he probably got more, like $450,000, maybe more. He is bringing home well over $1 million a year from Autism Speaks. It's all tallied up, I'm sure of it. And less than $400,000, less than half of what he's taking home a year is going to actually autistic people. And then, in this case, it's more than likely going straight back to the executives of Autism Speaks. And I'm not saying this in the respect of no. That's just how corporations work, and that's how they slide things in and so forth. My father was a corporate executive. I don't talk about this. International paper company. He worked for a company called Champion that was about as... It was the competitor of International. And it was absorbed into International Paper Company. They were going to make him the CEO of the oil and gas division. Now, when you see these movies where there's this long table and there's all these corporate executives and they're making... That's bullshit. I saw what really happens. These high-level corporate executives, what I saw, it was at people's kitchen table, at $100, $200 kitchen table or whatever. 3 or 4 people are having a conversation. And then they go to their people and say, this is what's going to happen. And then that board of people with that long table and everything, all those executives get to do what they're told. That's what really happens. The deals don't actually go down in officially in the open. It's always people talking things, and then once things are kind of settled, then it goes to, quote, those official channels that are supposed to be where it all starts, but that isn't. When I was very young, I guess you could say my family was very wealthy, or at least very upper middle class. And then as I became an adult and so forth, they they actually kind of lost their money due to the savings and loan scam. We had a chain of hotels, and one day the FBI shut down the bank accounts, and we were not in that same social status anymore. We no longer had any money. So they spent my father spent the rest of his life living on Social Security. I don't talk about that because I hate it, because I'm so afraid people, well, you're white privilege, right? Yeah, I've lived out of my car and been homeless too.
Speaks is a non-profit that people donate to. They donate money to help autistic people. So where does that money...
Oh yeah, the shareholders votes and so forth. Yeah, I would say they're kind of meaningless, because the direction of the company, they can vote on to say yes to what the decision makers already made those decisions, kind of thing.
Actually go once you give it to Autism
Now,
Speaks.
that's at least what I saw. Maybe it's different in other places, I don't know, but that was kind of in the Texas oil and forestry kind of. My father was a Texas oil man.
2020, 49% of their budget went to raising awareness and lobbying, 24% went to research, 17% went to fundraising, 9% was just the miscellaneous costs of running the organization, and 1% went to helping the families of autistic people.
Now, let's take a look at Autism Speaks. Now, they will say that it's 86%. Goes directly back to autistic people. Now, this is how they justify this. Let's say Elaine Lamb did get a $250,000 bonus. So what their justification is, she is working for Autism Speaks for an organization that helps autistic people. As such, when she gets that $250,000 bonus, that is going directly towards autistic people because she works for that organization. In her case, she's actually autistic, so it did go directly to an actually autistic person. But that's how they make those justifications and so forth, and that's how they get to that big 80%, 86%, 89%, whatever, goes back directly to autistic people. They're justifying people's salaries and bonuses and even advertising can go, because that's going directly. That's advertising, I don't know if they can actually use advertising directly, but you can see how they can basically justify anything as going to helping autistic people. And once again, that's what I kind of saw, the bullshit or whatever that went around in the corporate world. I used to sit there and kind of hide and listen to my dad in these business meetings and so forth. Yeah, raising awareness, which would go directly to helping autistic people, right? Yeah, it's it's so, and you know what? Basically, all charities kind of do these things. All companies do these things. Not to the extent of Autism Speaks. Nowhere near to that extent.
1% of the work that they do. And you could say, wait, isn't the raising awareness helping autistic people? But not really. I mean, they make videos.
Isn't that funny? We just had that discussion.
Like I Am Autism and Autism Every Day that make people hate us and think we're evil and literally possessed by like a parasitic disease. They also participate in making movies like Sia's Music that are this. Their attempts at raising awareness also include things like Autism Awareness Month and the hashtag Light It Up Blue campaign. I mentioned this in the beginning. You remember the blue light bulbs that Home Depot...
Ouch, 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 ouch. That's quite the inheritance there.
...sells? Yeah. A lot of people disagree with them doing this. A lot of people have actively spoken out. They use the hashtag red instead because, like I said, the reason that Autism Speaks was associated with the color blue, we believe, is because it was considered to be a boy's condition. so many of us use red instead. Autism Speaks entirely ignores.
Now, Eileen Lamb denies that in. I'm not going to call her a liar. I'm just going to say that the verdict is still out on that one.
This. They also ignore the fact that we prefer to call it Autism Acceptance Week instead of Autism Awareness Week. Because the issue isn't that people are unaware of autism, they know about it, they bully us for it, they threaten to drive us off bridges for it, they kill us for it. The issue is that they don't accept us and they want us to be gone. But Autism Speaks entirely ignores all of those criticisms. They did in fact change their...
And they do. Like, she's going to talk about they changed it to the logo to partially blue, but then they left it a puzzle piece. A slap in the autistic community's face. They knew better. They knew what the complaints were, but they didn't care. They wanted to do what they wanted to do because they are speaking instead of autistic people, not for autistic people, and not on our behalf.
Their logo to make it partially red.
It's all about the money.
Red and partially blue, but they didn't get rid of the puzzle piece, which is the main thing that people had a problem with. So no, their attempts at raising awareness are not that great for us. At that point you could say, but doesn't the research help autistic people? And that's a really interesting question.
And that's another thing too. They're saying we're doing research and so forth. They need to get rid of all the research. Like I said, as long as it is Autism Speaks, they're never going to get it over. They're never going to earn complete trust. They are always going to be doubted when they give to any kind of research. So they should, if they're going to stay, they should, first of all, the best solution is to be completely abolish the Autism Speaks altogether. That's the best solution because of all the stigma, all the mistakes. It's better to start with a clean slate. That being said, because they're not going to do that, if you fund any research, many in the autistic community will never, ever, ever trust you. When you start with genocide, when you want to murder us, and you're saying, well, we're doing better than that. We don't want to murder you anymore. Are you kidding me? I'll be darned.
So glad you asked. Let's talk about the research that Autism Speaks does. So, since being founded, Autism Speaks has merged with 3 other organizations. All 3 of those organizations also started with the purpose of finding a cure and prevention for autism. These organizations are the Autism Coalition for Research and Education, the National Alliance of Autism Research, and Cure Autism Now. This third group, Cure Autism Now, they created something called the Autism Genetic Research Exchange. So the point of this is to gather genetic information from thousands of families and try to identify which genes are causing autism. AGRE is the largest open access repository for genetic information in the field of autism research. And the organization that started it, Cure Autism Now, they specified that the point of this was to find ways to prevent and cure autism. It's in their old mission statement. But since Autism Speaks and Cure Autism Now have merged, Autism Speaks is now part of this AGRE thing. According to Autism Speaks website, AGRE, this research database started for the express purpose of curing and preventing autism, is, quote, now part of the Autism Speaks family. And I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? Because, like I said, they never stopped trying to cure autism. They just stopped using the word cure. One of those other organizations they merged with, the National Alliance for Autism Research, they had a similar initiative to this called the Autism Genome Project. And the Autism Genome Project was started by the National Alliance for Autism Research and the NIH, the National Institute for Health. And the NIH specifies the purpose of this on their website. They say that the goal of this research was to understand what genes make it likely that a baby will be born with autism so that they can easily test newborns for autism and then give them early intervention. They also say one of their other goals is to...
And frankly, what we're finding out now, we used to think that basically we had a gene and it would turn on or off or whatever. What we're finding out is that genes many times can serve a great variety of purposes, and there's certain switches that turn on those genes to do certain things, and it could be different things. And so it is not as cut and dry as, quote, you have an autism gene, and it may never ever be that cut and dry. Now, we might be able to, in a sense, stop autism or whatever genetically, though that's going to come. It will come. But not now. And you're never still going to never be, you'll be able to, maybe very, very, very early, maybe treat, but you're never going to be able to cure autism because that person is going to be already born. If a Dalmatian is born a Dalmatian, you cannot cure it by making it into a German Shepherd. Okay? But you could make sure that nobody ever has anything but German Shepherds if you wanted. And that's where you would be causing the extinction of Dalmatians or genocide or eugenics.
Create a medication for autism that will help with the neurodevelopment of autistic children. If you don't know, autism is a...
Yeah, and I think so. And they're seeing that there's a bigger variety than they thought. Actually, genetic studying is getting pretty exciting. The biggest problem is of course, the more they learn, the more they're finding out that they don't know.
neurodevelopmental disorders, so helping with our neurodevelopment likely just means finding a way to make us neurotypical through medication. But the main concern about this Autism Genome Project is that it would make it possible to detect autism in the womb. This means that someone who's pregnant could be told your baby has like an 80% chance of being autistic. And the thing that usually would be said after that is, do you want an abortion? This would give parents the opportunity to get abortions specific.
And more than likely, most people would say, you're damn right. I want an abortion. There are a lot of people that would, I would be murdered. I would never exist in this circumstance, more than likely. And I kind of like me.
Specifically because they don't want an autistic child. This process already exists with conditions like Down syndrome. We can test for Down syndrome in the womb, and we can tell parents how likely it is that their child will have Down syndrome. In many places, they also will extend the deadline for an abortion if they find out that the child has Down syndrome. And we support abortion. Abortion is a human right, and it saves thousands of lives and improves even more lives. So why are we talking about this like it's a bad thing? Firstly, a lot of disabled people think that if you are aborting your child just because they are disabled, that's gross. It's this whole thing with like, you get to choose to have children or not to have children, but trying to choose which type of children you have is very strange. If you signed up to have a child, you signed up to have a disabled child, you signed up to have a trans child.
In the last 6 months since Kay died, he was my best friend and he was my hyper-focus. I used to keep my phone on me all the time just in case he might call. Now I don't really care that.
Child, you signed up to have a gay child, and you aren't supposed to be like picking out all of the specific traits that you want. That's kind of similar to some other people who did some really bad stuff when they found out they were able to do that. Also, this idea that like you are a good parent to your non-disabled kids, but you'd be a terrible parent to a disabled kid is probably not true. If you would suck at parenting a disabled kid, you would likely also suck at being a parent in general. So maybe just don't have kids. However, I do believe that anyone who wants an abortion because their child is disabled should get one, because I don't think any child deserves to be raised by a parent who thinks they shouldn't exist. But that's not the only issue here, because abortion is a personal choice, whether we agree with it or not. But this would also open the door for the government to force you to have an abortion. And that might sound crazy, but it's not as crazy as it sounds. First of all, like I mentioned, a lot of countries with universal healthcare will do anything in their power to stop disabled people from existing in their country because it costs them more money for healthcare. But also forced sterilization.
I'm not going to critique this person on this at all. I think what they say needs to stand.
Laws in the United States to stop the spread of mental deficiencies started as early as 1907 and didn't end until the 1960s. Not to mention the whistleblower report that came out about ICE, immigration control, forcing sterilization on women in their facilities in 2020. So it's not that wild and wacky of an idea. that they could just force us out of existence. But if you ask Autism Speaks why they're doing this research, they won't say that it's for abortions. They won't say that it is for, like...
It's we read it earlier. It's to help improve the quality of life. But how? Is it really going to do that?
Breeding out the autistic people or forcing cures on them. They will say that it's for early intervention. So what are these treatments and interventions? They have a section called interventions on their website, and I checked. So the first thing they recommend is ABA therapy, also known as applied behavioral analysis.
It's very, very similar, if not exactly the same right now.
This is a therapy that is extremely controversial.
Let me see how old this video is. 11 months ago. Okay.
And once again, very dividing. It's very similar to the topic of Autism Speaks as a whole. So a lot of non-autistic parents and caregivers love it so much. They will talk about how it saved their lives and it improved their child, and it's the most evidence and research-based approach. While a lot of people who are actually autistic who went through ABA therapy will say that it was abusive, it traumatized them, and it should be abolished.
And the question I ask is, how many people need to walk out of ABA therapy with PTSD and it still be okay? And if a therapy causes harm, is it in fact a therapy at all? In some respects, you could say like chelation therapy or radiation therapy, whatever, chemo, that's harmful to the body, and a little bit, but it actually saves a life. Okay, we're not talking about that here.
So a lot of non-autistic parents and caregivers love it so much. They will talk about how it saved their lives and it improved their child, and it's the most evidence.
It saved their lives, and it kind of, she's probably right.
And research-based
whatever, I don't know their identity.
Approach. While a lot of people who are actually autistic who went through ABA therapy will say that it was abusive, it traumatized them, and it should be abolished. So let me know if you want a video just about ABA therapy, because I actually do think there are a lot of things that people aren't including when they talk about it, both like positive things about ABA and negative. Not that I support ABA, there are just certain things that people like don't mention that they probably should. But if you want a video on that, let me know. For now, let's talk about the most common criticisms of ABA. First of all, it focuses on ignoring the needs of children.
You're right. You are absolutely right. Even in the fundamentalist church, I think, that I grew up in, I'm sure that it never came up that I saw, but I'm sure that even in that fundamentalist group, that if they figured out that a kid had autism or whatever and somebody terminated that person, probably they wouldn't necessarily mention it to the church or whatever, but they probably wouldn't get much criticism. In fact, they would probably get a lot of sympathy. And
secondly, it attempts to improve dangerous behaviors, like children eating non-edible things or running out in the street, like we talked about earlier. But along with that, it often also focuses on stopping non-harmful behaviors just to make children seem normal. So, for example, they would also stop a kid from lining up toys and teach them that they have to play normally.
Yes! You have to play with the doll like I want you to. And it's totally subjective. And I've seen this over and over again about appropriate play. So if, let's say a puzzle, you get a little puzzle out there, maybe I want to stack the pieces. Maybe I want to throw them all over the damn room. Instead of put the puzzle pieces together. Maybe I don't know. The thing is that's wrong. Why? Why can't I play with the puzzle the way I want to? What makes it wrong for me to play with it differently than you would want to? It's absurd.
And finally, ABA.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Hey, thanks. I you know I appreciate you. I'm gonna be getting rid of this here pretty soon too. This is about over, and I've been on an hour.
On changing us. The father of ABA actually also worked with the very groundwork, the foundations of gay conversion therapy to stop people from being gay. Not to mention that ABA also focuses on training children like dogs. And I'm gonna read you a quote from that same founder who worked with gay conversion therapy, who created ABA, about how he described working with autistic children. Quote, "You see, you pretty much start from scratch when you work with an autistic child. You have a person in the physical sense. They have hair, a nose."
Yeah, this is Lavos. You have to put the person inside them.
And a mouth, but they are not people in the psychological sense. One way to look at the job of helping autistic kids is to see it as...
And if I remember right, oh no, it wasn't LeVar. It was Hans Asperger that said that basically. That female autistic, and there were evidently some female autistics or whatever, but were prostitutes, natural-born prostitutes. Yeah.
As a matter of constructing a person. You have the raw materials, but you have to build the person. Yet, Autism Speaks' first recommendation for intervention is ABA therapy. They go on to list some other therapies, some of which are way cooler, but they are known for just funneling parents of newly diagnosed kids into ABA therapy.
And the thing is doctors don't know any different. That's all they know. They don't know anything about ABA. They just know it's a treatment for autistic kids. They've never done ABA, more than likely. Oh yeah, and well the thing is like the shock treatments, they give the shock way more than they would ever give a dog. If you, like the Judge Rottenberg Center, if you were to treat a dog like that, you would go to jail. Period. But we're not as good as dogs. We're not as human as dogs.
So has Autism Speaks changed? Not really. Here are some other organizations you can donate to instead. Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network.
I've heard some good thing about the Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network, and they are still active right now.
Self-Advocates Becoming Empowered, Autistic People of Color Fund, and Communication First.
And
I'll
I don't know
list
those.
all of those and the videos we watched and the sources for all of my information in the description below. You can also go to the description to find ways that you can support me, and remember to take your medication and drink water, and thank you so much for watching.
Drink water? That was so random. I love it. That's great. Drink water. I'm going to shut it down now. I have now completed 40 hours of my 100 hours. I can't believe I got another 60. Holy hell, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But I am going to persevere. And the reason I did for that many hours, I wanted to go crazy with the numbers to show that you literally could talk for 100 hours about Autism Speaks and how awful it is. So it was meant to be, what do you call it, over the top, so to speak. And that's to make the point. Well, Purple, I certainly appreciate you coming here with me and on the stream here. And maybe you can join me. And I definitely, Saturday, I look forward to it. Send me, I don't think Mark has my Twitter, so if you could send a link or have just I don't know if me and Mark have communicated, but it's at Ludu David or whatever, so you know where I'm at. But yeah, just send me that link, and yeah, I'm excited about that. Anyway, I'm gonna get off of this stream here, and I really appreciate everybody is spending time with me. This is David Page.